Okay, so I have picked someone's sample create to do this video on. Won't say whose it is, but there wasn't any identifying stuff on there so that I feel like I can protect their anonymity because I didn't have any volunteers. So, but I wanted to get you a video. So on this, all right, let me make sure I go to the right one. Scoring guidelines. There we go. All right. So here, all right, we've got our scoring rubric, and it is 8 points as well. Okay, but they're worth more because the create task is 60%. So the first thing is you have your video. The video demonstrates the running of at least one feature of the program, and the response, either audio or in 2A, identifies the purpose and what the program is attempting to do. So just to clarify on there, because I know they're talking about, so here the purpose means the intended goal or objective of the program, and the function means how the program works. So note that in 2A, all right, it's focusing mostly on the purpose. And in fact, well, no, here, okay, they do have a note here. If you explain the function instead of identifying the purpose. The other thing to note, you can earn the point if it runs, even if it doesn't function as intended. Okay, so again, it doesn't have to be a perfect working program to be able to pass this exam. All right, so let me find, oops. I was gonna do the video, but basically in the video, because all these videos look the same, this person just played the rock, paper, scissors game and demonstrated that it working on there. So, and they did not have any narration. So I'm looking for in 2A, right? I should see their response. So, modern take on the classic game, prompts, one. Okay, so here, this would get the point because they said even if you describe how it functions, that you could earn the point. But a key thing here for games, right? The purpose of a game could be entertainment. It could be to advance skill level in a certain thing. So anyway, that's kind of how this is a function that they wrote about versus a purpose on there, just as an example of that. Okay, so let's go back to the rubric. All right, so 2B is 2 of the 8 points. And so it says, let me see if I can make this bigger. All right, so they describe or outline steps used in incremental and iterative development process to create the program, and then identifies at least 2 difficulties or opportunities and describes how those are resolved or incorporated. And so let's see. Let's go back to there. All right. Okay, so here it starts out, it's looking like they're talking about the incremental part first. So my first step was writing down the goals, then began writing my actual code. First, I wrote a function and outlining, did this, I did this, I did this. Okay, and so here, so definitely we've got the incremental in there, right? Timeline kind of thing, okay? And then here, this is where I saw an opportunity, and I would recommend using the words opportunity or difficulty, depending on what you're talking about, to make this a 2 of 3 game, okay? If there are no ties, rounds up. Okay, so it tells how he made that happen. Okay. So there is an opportunity and how it was implemented. Okay, so that's one. All right, and then I originally found trouble determining a winner after each round. So that sounds like a difficulty. Um, so I simplified it to all the possible combinations for user value and computer value and the corresponding winner of that round. Okay, all right. So gets the point the for opportunity and difficulty and how they were resolved or implemented. Um, but all right, I'm just okay. But I don't believe that this would get the point for the iterative. Okay. So iterative is where you're going to talk about, like debugging, for example, is an iterative process. Um, or uh, just anything where you are going through a process of, and maybe even you can incorporate that into your incremental by maybe saying that when once I finished this method, then I tested it with the rest of the program, and this is what happened, and so I went back and fixed it. Or down here, where you're talking about the difficulty, you could possibly in here, in talking about this, talked about the iterative process, the debugging process, or, I think it's possible you could have gone into more detail about this part here and described that repeated process of testing, getting the results, figuring out where your issue is in the code, changing that, testing it again, that kind of thing. So that's what they're wanting with iterative. So this response would have gotten one of the 2 points. And the key one that they didn't get is this part about the iterative, because here, like here, it says it does not earn the point if it does not indicate iterative development. So just be sure to kind of incorporate that in at some point. Okay, so then we have 2C. Selected code segment implements an algorithm. And so 2C is 3 points. So you implement an algorithm. It is it has to use math or logic. Uh, you're going to explain how it functions and then describe what it does in relation to the overall purpose. And those are all ands, so you need to have that in there. And then the third point is the one where it has the nested algorithm. So you have an overall algorithm that has two smaller algorithms within it. And again, the entire start function does not count as an algorithm. All right, so let's go back here and let's look at the 2C's. So we're doing ovals. Okay, so here, right, you're going to copy paste that code segment in there. All right, and so here they've got an oval that is a function, and then it contains 3 functions within it. So this has got that part where it's got the nested functions. And let's see, go back to the rubric. Okay, so we need at least one of them to have math or logic, and you're going to explain how one of them functions independently. All right, so let's go back here. Let's look at the discussion. Okay, it's a collection of functions, starts by calling computer value, which sets the value as a random number. It then calls user value, which asks for the rock, paper, scissors, and converts that. It concludes with determine, which evaluates the variables established in user value. It does this by running through all the possibilities. Okay. And adds to a global variable. So I would make sure, and you might even, using this, like, so there's your math in there, okay? So we incorporated a math. Okay, so definitely an algorithm starts by calling. All right, so here, this is, okay, this is a good one to do some comments on. Let me take you on my reading of this. All right, so one, you would get the row 4 point. It is an algorithm. Okay. All right, so here, the key thing that I am not seeing, but it would be an easy fix. And again, I am being really, really picky about this because because I want to clarify what these different parts of the rubric mean and what they're doing there. So I think you got in the math, and you may even want to say, this algorithm uses math in that or uses the logical concepts on there. Or even the other thing that you might want to do, I mean, you want to help the reader out, is up here, like where you're going in and doing like your ovals, you might even want to, like, whichever part you want to take credit for as your math or as you might want to like highlight it even in there. The logic or the thing, just use a highlight to put on there is a suggestion. Or you can just definitely call it out in the, sorry, that's the whole code. All right, call it out in the text that you're writing. Okay, so let me go back to the rubric. All right, okay, explains how it functions. All right, this is where I don't think this would earn the point. Describes what the selected algorithm does in relation to the overall purpose of the program. Now, see, here's the thing with that I want to point out with the scoring, okay? You can't earn points, the 2C points on the rubric, by what was written in 2B, okay? And what I mean by that is, right, okay, up here, determining a winner after each round. So here, like, I'm assuming that's the same code. That function winner is what the person was talking about up here. All right. So here, this is the kind of statement that you would want to put in there. You would want to say, how does it function within the thing? Well, what's the purpose of that algorithm? And you always want to, like, remember, an algorithm is a sequence of steps that is accomplishing a specific purpose. All right. So keep that part in mind when you are writing about your algorithms, is think purpose, because in the, sorry, wrong one. Okay, so in the kind of in both of these points for 2C, you really want to be talking about the purpose of the specific algorithm within your goal of your code. In this case, the game. What does that code do in relation to the overall purpose of the game? Okay. All right. I hope that's so. So this one, I think that is missing from 2C. All right. And again, even if you're repeating that, that's okay. It's just that most of the time when they train the scorers, you aren't allowed to go back and give a point, like if they mention something in 2B that would apply to 2C, they're not going to go back and give you credit for that. Okay, so make sure, even if you have to do a little repeating. Then this one includes at least 2 or more algorithms. Okay, so that's clearly shown in the code. At least one of the included algorithms uses math or logic. Yes. Explains how one of the included algorithms functions independently. Okay, so for this person, right, they would need either computer value, user value, or determine. All right, they would need to talk about how is it able to function independently. Like, in other words, if I wanted to use that in another as part of another algorithm, could it do that? Talk about like how it what are its inputs? I'm sorry, I went off of the wrong document there. What are its inputs and what does it return, or what variables does it update? And emphasize that it does that that it does that independently, that it's like a separate unit um, that performs a specific function. Okay, so for that, I don't think that this iteration, this response, I don't think it would earn this point either, because that part is missing on there. All right, so now let's look at 2D. All right, so selected code segment is a student-developed abstraction and explains how the selected abstraction manages the complexity of the problem. Okay, so let's go back and in our template 2D. All right, so here's our thing, and you want to be sure your little clips that you paste in here, they should also be the same ones that are included. Now, here it's okay that in the copy paste that you circled those, although really it would not have been necessary, and it might be for clarity, because typically the grader is looking for one oval that is the overall algorithm, and then they'll be able to look within that to see the other ones that it's referring to. Okay, so I don't think you needed to do multiple ovals. I don't think you would lose a point for doing that in the response. Um, but you might want to, if you want to emphasize those again, you might want to like highlight it, or have a different color text or something, just some other way to do that. Okay, then, okay, so here's that. You want to make sure, again, that there's a match between the full code, what's oval and squared, and then what you have copy pasted in here. So this function is an example of abstraction. As for one, it would, I don't understand that sentence. It helped manage the complexity of the program. As for one, it would be out. Okay. I got, okay. All right. In context of the subsequent sentences, I was able to figure out what you meant by that. Help me write the code as it again separated, allowing to move. Okay, and here also you may managing the complexity, right? There are a couple things that's helpful in or to talk about, in that again here he's focusing on it how it kind of helped him create the code, like in developing the code, how that was helpful. The other way that abstraction is manages the complexity or helps is in the debugging process. Okay, so talking about how separating it out, uh, it helped you whenever you had that you could debug things, kind of one at a time without having to look at the whole code when there was something that wasn't behaving the way that you thought it should. That you could, you could create, you could abstract a thing, test it, put it in, test it, see that it works. So So in the development process and in the debugging process are two ways that you can manage, that abstracting manages the complexity of the program. All right, so now that I've gone off tangent on that, let's go back and look. So selected code segment is a student developed abstraction. Now, here's the other thing. Those of you that are collaborating, all right, and I'll take this opportunity to emphasize this. Use comments in your code where that identify what you did individually and what you collaborated with your partner on. Okay. Clearly, I cannot emphasize this enough. Be very, very clear. And using comments is one of the best way to do it, because that way the grader, and the other thing is, in your 2B, I meant to say that, in your 2B, that's where you're going to talk about collaborating and what you did versus what your partner did. Okay. So you want it to be very clear that based on your responses and your full code and the comments in that code, so that the grader can look and see, okay, yes, this was a separate abstraction that was student developed. Okay, and all right. Okay, and here's another thing. I'm trying to think. All right, in the points here, all right, where it says it's an existing abstraction. Okay, the people that grade these are going to be completely familiar with Code HS. So if you are doing, for example, if you're doing something with Carol for your create task, if you're doing something with Carol, be very, very clear in what you are using that was created by Code HS and what is developed by you. And they are going to know this. And in fact, I'm going to know it. And if I see that you appear to be taking credit for something that actually was something already there from Code HS, then I have to notify College Board, and that's a pain to do that. So please, please, please be very clear in your comments. This was code developed by Code HS on the Carol, for Carol or whatever, and then this is what this is what I developed on my own for that. Okay. So, all right. So I think I've done that. All right. So, and then we look at this and I can tell, all right. So looking at this is obviously student developed. So they would get that point. And then, the other, how it manages complexity, I think they would get that point as well on there. All right, so if you have any questions, anything I can clarify, if there's any, again, if you have a question and you can frame it based on your practice tasks, I can answer questions like that. I just can't look at your code but now you guys can help each other. So be sure to take advantage of that. If you're having issues debugging, you can set up a Zoom with somebody and share your screen and let them help you with the debugging. And in fact, they actually encourage that sort of collaboration, helping each other with the debugging process. Okay, so if you have questions, again, reach out, contact me. I will be getting with you a little later about the whole exit interview process.